Welcome back to NJ Wedding Pro Podcast. My name is Tim at Wedding Photo NJ, and today we have an awesome guest. Corie from Greate Country Club is here with me, and we're going to talk about all the awesome stuff, weddings, and just a ton of valuable things that we have to share from just working in the industry for years. So why don't I let you formally introduce yourself?
Okay. Hello, my name is Corie Taylor. I work at Greate Country Club. I've been in the business for about 18 or 19 years now. I started as a planner, and just recently I just started doing the venue end of it. And so I originally actually started in event planning for fundraising, and then I moved to wedding planning, and now I'm a venue planner, I guess you would say.
That's awesome. I feel like in that time you've kind of done it all. And we were talking a little bit about before we got started, and just kind of feeling like over the 15 years you were like, oh, do you do a little bit of this? And I was like, I feel like after 15 years I've kind of done a little bit of everything, but it always ends up kind of coming back to like weddings. That's just like there's something about it, something about like the passion and some of the chaos and hecticness that it just for me it's a bit of like a comfort zone. I don't know if that's how you feel, especially being a wedding planner for years.
Well, even like what I went to school for was nothing of this. I actually double majored in elementary ed and psychology, and then I got out of college and I opened a daycare in a nursing home.
Oh wow.
And then that ended for the summer. And so then they sent me back to school to be a recreation director. And I worked with old people in nursing homes and probably like 15 years. And then I also was a COO of a roofing and siding company. I was director of volunteers at the rescue mission. I was a clown at IHOP.
Oh my goodness.
I was the Easter Bunny at Storybook Land. But every single one of those roles and every single, like even starting in fundraising, event planning has impacted how I do everything for weddings.
Yeah.
Because you see the value. Like there was a season where I was working at the rescue mission and wedding planning. And there was a day where I left the rescue mission and I left kids in line for food. And I went and did a wedding where they paid $1 million for food.
Yeah.
And that was like, whoa, okay. It just impacted that day, and just even like I met with that bride and I was like explaining like this is such a gift that you have, and and the impact that you're going to have on your guest and different things like that. So I try to tell all my brides there's two main questions that I ask is how do you want your guests to feel when they leave your wedding,
mm-hmm.
and how do you want to tell your love story, because anybody can build a Pinterest wedding. But if you have those two things, that's what's going to be impactful for your guest and make it memorable for your family.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I feel like it kind of ends up being one of these things that you take a little bit for granted. You see so many extravagant weddings, and I've been to so many different venues. And if you're walking in for the first time, as a guest, you might be like really blown away. And sometimes for us, it's like it's just kind of part of the job, but you lose that perspective sometimes of like this is like a really big thing that not everybody gets the chance to really like enjoy in the same way. So
and it's funny because like even just I remember there was a day I was at Brant Beach Yacht Club doing a wedding, and I was sitting on the back deck watching a sunset, eating a steak, and I'm like, this is quite a life that I'm living here. But it wouldn't have happened if I wasn't a wedding planner. Like, because of the atmosphere that I was building for somebody else, I was able to enjoy it. It wasn't something that typically happens on a weekday for me.
Yeah, there's definitely perks that come with, just being in the wedding industry, being a wedding vendor for sure. But yeah, like all those jobs and things that you work on, even outside of weddings, like the way that they just give you perspective on like, being in the wedding industry as a professional. I feel like that's something that I definitely try to like remind myself of and be appreciative of. Because there's definitely a lot to. We have a really cool job. I feel like not a lot of people can say they they get to go to this like celebration every time that they're working. So definitely not something to take for granted or lightly.
Yeah. For me, one of the main things is hospitality. And my parents raised me in a home where our doors were always open. And we always, like, it was never even a thought of, like, how we would feed people or what time people would go home or anything like that. And so this past season, right before we started, I actually brought in stuff from my house and I set a table for my staff and we made them dinner and they ate off my dishes and we talked about the importance of hospitality and what it means. And then once I hired new staff, I had that staff, my older staff, do the same thing for them. And they brought in dishes and food and different things like that. So that way they understand, like, that's our purpose. Like, we want our guests to walk out of there feeling loved and seen. And not even just the bride and the groom, but, like, I encourage my staff, if they see somebody kind of sitting off to the side and they look bored or lonely, go talk with them. Like, just let them be seen on that day. And, like, that's, for me, relationships are key to this industry. Not only just our clients, but even, like, between you and I. And so hospitality is, for me, one of the main reasons why I do what I do.
Yeah.
Both of my parents passed away really, really young. My dad was 54 and my mom was 64.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so I realize, like, what is actually happening on that day. So I try to guard special moments even.
Yeah.
Like, there was one wedding where another vendor rushed the cake cutting and then the mother missed it. And I got so upset and they were like, what is the big deal? I'm like, we can never give that back. Like, these are moments that we're able to gift them and be a part of. And when we make mistakes, that's what's lost. It's not like, oh, the food is cold, but it's those things that I think are valuable to what we do, because we're able to help, especially the younger kids, like the younger 20-somethings that don't know all the rules and all the things of how you go through a day. We're able to help them create those moments and be able to be there for those moments, because you never know how long you have it.
I know. I'm so glad, like, you brought that up, and this is one of those things that I don't talk about very much or very openly about. But my father passed away as well, really young at 47, and it's one of those things that really gives you a very new perspective on, like, the moments that matter. And I always say how, as like a photographer for weddings specifically, how much of my job is completely outside of taking pictures or taking photos that day. That's a major part of it. I can't show up without a camera, but it really is like one of those things where when you are mindful about their perspective and, like, what they're going through on that day. And maybe there are moments where it's like that, where it's like something that it's not so outward and obvious, but maybe it just takes a little bit of, like, consideration on, like, well, what might this bride or groom or family member, what might they be going through or thinking about, or what does this mean to them? And that really helps you. Helps me to really I feel like just make better photos and capture better video and document it in a way that really gives a lot of gravity and appreciation to those, like, little things that are just outside of clicking a button.
Yeah. And that's what, like, I think why I fell in love with wedding planning is you're with that person, that couple, all the way for usually about 1.5 to 2 years. And you're walking through, and there's so many things that pop up, whether they're starting to buy a house, they are, starting to get into their career. I have a bride that's coming up in November that her mom passed away a year before she got engaged. And just walking her through that process and allowing her the space to talk about, like, oh, like, I'm happy that I have a shower. But then there's that moment where, and so knowing that I can be that safe space on the wedding day, that if she needs to step back and be like, I know I'm happy, I know this is exciting, but at the same time, I want to acknowledge how I feel about that, because that is really, like, out of all the things that you probably deal with on your wedding day, the emotions that are tied to so many different things, that's the hardest part. And it can be because of a loss of a parent, or it could be that you don't necessarily get along with a stepmother, or there's all these different factors that people don't realize that when you're planning, they really hit you. And so it's just an honor to be a part of their day and to be able to walk through that with them.
Yeah. And I always think about like, you know, what that might be like to not have somebody who is like really considerate and sensitive to these types of a thing. And I mean, I hear stories pretty often. I don't know how often you hear, you know, certain stories about like just the things that maybe couples wish that were a little bit different. And I always try to avoid like using regret or anything like that,
Right.
because like at the end of the day, it's a wedding day, and I don't look back on any of the weddings I've ever done and been like, oh, like this one was any less than any of the other ones. Like they're all just like perfect in their own way, regardless of like what the weather decides and all that. But yeah, so, you know, I'm always appreciative of, you know, couples that really want to work with me. And I hope that they, you know, they value that when they're, you know, doing their search and end up deciding to work with me. But I know that there's a ton of, you know, professionals out there that, you know, maybe this is a little bit more of like just kind of a job for them. And this is just kind of like a paycheck, which is, you know, definitely a shame. But I'm sure, you know, a lot of the people that you work with, you kind of choose the people that you work around. And really, you know, are around people that value it in the way that you do.
Yeah. And the other thing, like, and it's not always sad. Like, one of my favorite moments at a wedding was I did a wedding and they were huge Phillies fans. And the DJ had the game going above their head, like above the DJ booth. And when they won, like, it was like the playoff game was on their wedding day. And, you know, like you make that date so far in advance, there's no way to. And so they were like, how can we tie this in, right? Like, they were like, we can't not see this. And so as everybody's dancing, the game's playing. And then when they won, I just went blank on the name of the song. There was a song that when the Phillies won the World Series, like, and they played that song and everybody was like so ecstatic, and it just was such a different feel. Like, normally a wedding, you're excited and you're happy and everything. But then you take like the excitement of winning the big game on your big day. Yeah. And like the whole place exploded. And it was awesome. Like so ridiculous and so much fun. And it just made a different feel that I've never had at a wedding before. So just to be, you know, like, those moments are even just as special to me as like walking a bride through the other hard parts. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as we were talking before, I know you mentioned like your faith has a lot to do with just how you work and the perspective that you have and the values that you have. Do you want to talk a little bit about? Yeah.
Like, even it's funny because a lot of times I'm told I'm a little weird because there's not a lot of that in this industry. And so I have had a very difficult and like great life, don't get me wrong, but just with different things that have happened through my life that I know that I shouldn't do most things without God, right? And so that's how I do things. And so that's in this industry a little different. And so, and it was always a little fun where I'd, you know, as wedding planner, you just walk in and then whatever venue it is or whatever, you know, vendors you have, like, they would be like, oh, well, what else do you do? And I'd be like, a children's pastor. Then everybody would be like, like, sorry, I didn't mean to curse. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, for me, my faith is a relationship with Jesus. And the way I even explain it to like my staff or anyone is I have no expectations how other people behave or whatever they choose. My relationship is based on that I have this one-on-one relationship with God and Christ and Jesus. And so for me, like, it would be like you asking me to act a certain way because of your wife, right? Because you have a relationship with your wife. So all your rules, all your decisions are made differently because it impacts her. Well, that's how I look at my relationship with God. is like all my decisions are based off of that because of my relationship directly to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody else, you know, like you do what you do. And, you know, like if you come to me for advice, of course it's going to have a little bit of a skew. But I do every morning get up and I pray over what I have to do for the day. And I pray over the people that I'm serving and pray over my staff and really try to be there for them when they, you know, like outside of how well they serve dinner that day. I'm very much aware that my team is not here for the long haul. So I'm about, and I've told them very upfront, I'm about creating good employees for whoever that they go to next.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know one is in school to be a financial advisor. He's not going to be a server the rest of his life. But how can I teach him how to sow good things into his life so that way when he becomes even maybe own his own company, like these are the things that I kind of, it's beyond just like making sure that you're doing your job well. And so, but that all stems from my relationship with Jesus and how I love him and how he loves me. And then I just want to pour that out onto others.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like how I've chosen to create relationships.
Yeah.
And so if you ask me directly about it, I'll be like, yeah, let's talk about Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like there's a chef in our kitchen that has no interest, but at the same time he asked me question after question. And at one season he was like, start in Genesis. What is Genesis about? Exodus. And for 8.5 years I was teaching babies all the way through 5th grade. I'm like, I'm prepared.
Yeah.
Like, I can tell you.
You're ready for these questions.
Yeah. So I don't like really try and like force it down anyone's throat because I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
But also
it's a part of
it's
you.
a huge part of me.
I love that. And I was like, I wanted you to share some of that because I know that's a big part of, you know, just your past as a pastor, but even currently in the way that you operate into two things. So, and I feel like, you know, the people that you work with a bigger team. And so I wonder like that term that always gets kind of thrown around in the workplace, like, oh, we're family. Like, do you kind of feel like, you know, you're together so often that in some ways you kind of are operating as like a family. And so, does that make you like mom of Great Bay Country Club in some way?
Very much.
Right?
Very much. And it was funny because like as soon as I started, I have one employee, Maria, and Maria's been with Great Bay for I think 23 or 24 years. And she's amazing. And she's a little rough around the edges, but at the same time, she knows everything. They joke that there's a ghost at Great Bay, but I'm like, no, it's Maria. Like, she's just messing with you all. But, like, within the first year of working with her, she was diagnosed with cancer, and she got married, and she got her driver's license. And I walked all the, like, I helped her pick her wedding dress. And I'm like, I barely know, like I just met her 3 months before and then we just like walked all that through together and just kind of like thought it through and how, you know, like how she was going to pay the medical bills. And then even with that, like when the owner heard about it, he like really stepped in and just kind of helped take care of her and the members like raised money for her. And so it's not even just our staff that's a family there, like Great Bay. They literally just threw our golf pro a baby shower yesterday.
Oh, that's awesome.
The ladies' league.
Yeah.
Like nobody else like told them to do it. They were just like, we love Chucky and his wife Taylor. We're going to throw a baby shower. But when you're doing 12-hour days together or more, you become family. Right. And you fight like family. You play like family. Mm-hmm. You do it all. And so, and I love our team like that does that. And we do weird, goofy things. I think it was Christmas time. I was like, oh, your present is going to be a game. And so I gave everybody dart guns. Mm-hmm. Or not like the Nerf guns.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoever's left gets a bonus. And so we're only allowed to use it in these certain rooms. And so like we played all night long. The whole event was still going on.
Yeah.
Nobody had any idea that my staff was playing like Manhunt. Mm-hmm. But it was so like funny. Something fun in the background and we were having fun. Service was great. My staff was out there having fun. And so like you just have to have that bond and almost a little bit of transparency of like who you are because you're together so long and so much.
Yeah, I definitely I feel like that probably is one of those things that gets glossed over a lot, especially if you are planning a wedding and you're picking out a venue. And like, why would one of the things that even comes up in consideration be, well, I wonder what the culture is like working there. But a lot of that is always top down. I feel like, and so when you have a good owner and good management, and I feel like that is really what helps the staff to do a good job. And so when you get this praise, it feels like it's it almost feels like, oh yeah, of course they're doing a good job, because like this is they just love what they do, and it's not just a job
Yeah.
to them.
Well, I mean, I do a lot of reading, and I love Will Araby, Unreasonable Hospitality. So he's like a baseline for my staff. And then also Preston, the 30-hour work week. He is amazing. I love him. I would love to go. He's actually doing a training right now with Will.
Okay.
And I'm like, I would love to go there, but it's all the way in California.
Okay.
But the way they look at things, and they've even studied Chick-fil-A, because if you look at Chick-fil-A, right, they're not even open as many days as McDonald's and Burger King, and they have all these other reasons why they shouldn't be making more money than those companies. But yet the culture and what you receive when you walk in there is more than a chicken sandwich. So therefore people like going there and like taking their kids there. And so most of our events are things where it's a one and done, but we now have created, like just this past weekend, I did a funeral, a celebration of life. I also 6 months ago did a baby shower for them. And now they are, and while they were at the funeral, they were like, we're coming back to do our baptism.
Yeah.
So like sometimes it can be a one and done, but then there's also times where we can create an environment where they know this familiar and their family feels safe and they know the food is going to be amazing. And like that when we're planning, it's all going to, like their vision is going to come to life because it's going to be paid attention to. Like all the little details. And so, yes, weddings are one and done, but when we get that baby shower, when we get that next step, that is key for me. Like that to me is like a huge win.
Yeah, I love that. I have some of my clients and my couples that after the wedding, they start growing the family, and even just being able to see them again and just kind of see where they're at and reminisce on like all the awesome moments. Or even if they're not growing the family, they just have like somebody else in the friend circle is getting married as well, and then I get to see them again at at their wedding. Like that's one of my favorite things, because it's just like you do build a connection, you work with them for so long, and on the day of you're with them for most of the day, and then for I think for most lines of work, you end up just kind of like, that's it. But for us, there is this opportunity to have a repeat customer or just like be able to like stay connected with them in a really positive way.
Yeah.
So.
Well, even at the expo that we just did, one of the resellers, she was one of my brides.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And then all the models, one is a bride that I have in November. One was the bride that got me the job there. Another one was a bride that I did in Pennsylvania. And then they all brought like a friend. So then 2 of them were now engaged. And so like just being able to keep those relationships and being like, oh, well, come try this. Let's do that. And so, yeah, I'm not very good at saying goodbye.
Right. Yeah. You're like, you just have to come in. I don't care for what it is, but just, come back in for something. But
one of the things that I love that we do is on your 1-year anniversary, you get a gift card and an invitation to come back and have dinner at the pub.
Yeah.
And normally like we're a private club. So you normally have to be a part of the club to be able to go to the pub. And so everybody's like, ooh. And so it's like we're just continuing that relationship. So that way they are like, oh, you can come back and reminisce, walk the grounds, and just have a really great meal again. And so. Yeah,
I love that. It definitely shows in a lot of different ways, just the way that that you guys at Greate really just value the people that you work with. And I love that you touched on the bridal expo, because I figured this had to come up.
Yeah.
Although this might not be like sponsored by Wed Society South Jersey. We're brought
That's how we
together
met.
by
Yeah.
Wed Society South Jersey. So definitely shout out to them for doing a good job of just like bringing all these professionals together and connecting everybody. But yeah, so why don't we talk about the show, because that was that one of the first ones
That was the
that you did
first
there.
one that I did there.
Mm-hmm.
When I was working for Bogath Wedding and Events in LBI, we had done them for Hotel LBI. We've done them at LBI National. So we've been doing them for a while, but they were just I feel like this is going to sound negative, but it was a typical show.
Mm-hmm.
And but when I got there and I was like, oh, this is my world, and I just like dreamed. And I also happened to be on the couch with a hip replacement and I was bored, and so then I just kept building and building into the expo. And then I was like, hey, I need a partner. Ooh, and that's when I partnered with Wed Society for the luxury vendors, and then I partnered with Kristen from Lux Weddings for the resale.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, then all of a sudden, all y'all just kept coming out of the woodworks, and it was lovely. And I just, like, there were so many of you guys that just did, you know, like Chucky from Fresh New Angle came and did the DJ. And we had Caitlin from Hand Me Down Gowns that did one of the fashion shows, and Amy from Ivory by Amy that did the other fashion show. And Black Eyed Susans did an amazing job with all the florals, and there was just so many. There's like so many. I feel like I'm forgetting a whole bunch
I
of
was
them,
gonna
but-
say thank you for like shouting some of that, because it really was like just a lot of really just talented professionals that came together. And then I love even that after the expo that we did, it was like afterwards we did our own networking event organized by Wed Society South Jersey, and then hosted by Greate Country Club. And even that, I was just like, this is such a cool thing, because I've done a lot of the the networking opportunities out there, and a lot of them I feel like they're not specific to weddings, and
Right.
that's almost the thing that I don't want to say that I don't like about them, but it just doesn't feel like I can contribute enough to that, where with this, it really felt like it was just like an open opportunity for everybody to just be able to like talk, sit down at any table that you wanted, and be able to like to connect with somebody else like in your industry. So.
Well, I even think like one of the, like, everybody thinks, oh, you're a wedding planner or you're a wedding photographer. It's all happy, all fun, and they don't see all the sides of the business, like even walking, people through hard times as you're planning things. And so they don't see all the hard parts of it. They just think, oh, wedding planner, that sounds so like fancy and fun. And most days it is. Don't get me wrong. I love what I do. But like to be able to pull professionals within and just talk about, like, even John from Happy Tears the other day, well, it was probably about a month ago now, he called me and I was telling him that one of the other ideas I have is during the winter time, when everybody has a little downtime, maybe hosting little classes for us as professionals to like learn new things, new skills, and creating a space. And then all of a sudden he called me like a month later and he's like, well, what about doing a resale for all the vendors? I would love to be able to sell some of my, and so like just having space. I know he wasn't there at the meeting, but Jenna was there. And but just having spaces like that and being able to create those relationships, and then it just really makes you sharper as a professional.
Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah, for as long as I have been doing this, and I've been, kind of part of teams, and I've done it on my own, and more recently, I would say from around like 2018 when I really ventured out on my own, until like more recently, it's what I love about really having that complete control over, creatively and all of the other decisions. Like you really get to decide how you want things to be run and how you want things to look. But it can be a little bit isolating.
Yes.
And you're a business owner, you're on your own, and you realize that at a certain point, you're like, I can't do everything on my own. And so, but just to have other people that you can, just like connect with, that are like just friends of the, in the industry. And Wed Society, they came and did a sit down, on the podcast. Definitely like check that out if you guys want to see more of that. But that was just such a good conversation that we had with him, and that was, I think, one of the reasons why I was like, what, I really do feel like this is going to be something that is valuable beyond like being able to book, potential planning couples and
Right.
things like that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, even just, I don't know, like, I feel like as a professional, you have, like, so I always say, like, I'll post a picture of a wedding, and people are like, that is beautiful. And then it's almost like they believe that I did it. And really, my skill is finding people who are really great at what they do and then putting them all in the same room and then knowing that they'll treat each other fairly, do exceptional, not have to be looked after. Like, that's what my skill is taking people from here and here and putting them and making a vision come to life. And so, like, just to have you guys all in the same room is just fun to watch you guys. Like, even, like, and everybody has their own personality, right? So, like, Black Eyed Susan's, she's so sweet and so kind. And then Bettina's is, like, super sassy, and I love them because they're, like, always having a good time and joking. And, like, so, like, you never know when you're walking into an event exactly what the day will hold. But you'll know that you can trust all those people because they excel at what they do.
Yeah.
And you can just be like, okay, I can breathe on that because, and then, so to create a community is so vital for your own success. Like, when you stay off to your own, you're really left, and like, things go wrong fast, right, in this industry. And so when you're alone and things are going wrong, you are so lonely and you are really left with, like, not a lot of, like, resources. Whereas if you have a community and things go wrong, not only do you know, like, okay, so-and-so canceled because of death in the family or whatever, but I can call this person. But at the same time, they're encouraging you through the whole entire thing. So now your day is even better because you're being encouraged by a great community because they trust you and they see you pass, like, money.
Yeah.
So it is so vital to have that community. And that's one of the things that's why I hopped on Wed Society so quickly, because I love the fact that that's their driving force. It's not just about building a business for them. It's about building a community for all the wedding planners and photographers and DJs and all that. So
yeah. And I feel like they're still in the earlier stages, but like, I'm definitely excited to see how things go, like in the next, like year or two. I just feel like they're already, such a great organization, like as it is, like just starting out. And so that's
and
also.
They just have a great eye. Like,
They
you know
do.
what made me sign up or even see them was that I saw my friends doing it. And I was like, ooh, they're a good, photographer. They're a good florist. I was like, if they're into it, then I know that I should be into it. And it took very little convincing me, just because I already knew that they had an eye for what was beautiful and what was excellent, because they were choosing all the right people. Like, there's a lot of newer people out there, and we should always give them a chance. But when you're spending the type of money that some people are on a wedding, you also want the experience and the know-how. So that way, when things are going left, like whether a storm comes, they know how to fix things, So that's one of the things that really impressed me about Wed Society, is that they don't just accept anybody into it. They really are looking for key people that know what they're doing and are extremely talented.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about a wedding day in itself, it's not like one person can really do it all on their own. Like, it really is an entire team of people that may not really even necessarily communicate with each other, but everybody kind of comes together to make this like beautiful thing happen. And even though I might take the beautiful pictures of the day of, like, I didn't set up the flowers, I didn't set up the tables, like a lot of these things are all it's a group effort. And so to even just have people that are in your network that you're like, oh, I can trust them, I know they do a good job. And that is definitely, there's like a lot of value there for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
So I definitely want to talk a little bit about like just the venue itself,
Okay.
because one of my favorite things I just want to kind of point out, the outdoor tent area
Oh
that
yeah,
you
our
have
greenhouse. It's
is
awesome.
yeah, it's such a neat place. So what are some of like maybe your favorite spots and things that you feel like couples really just gravitate towards, or that they end up like they see it and they're just like, we have to work with you guys.
Well, I think one of our best selling points is that we're very neutral. Like if you want a ballroom, we're not your person. Like we don't have the grandiose like staircases and carpets and all the things that come with a ballroom. We are a place where you come with a vision and we can make it happen, and the room will look exactly like how you want it. Everything's very neutral, very clean, a little bit coastal, but at the same time very clean and natural, and just ready for you to come in with whatever colors you want, whatever theme you want. And that goes for even like when we're doing baby showers. Like this season, we've done a baby shower that looked like an Italian restaurant.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was special delivery, and everything like was amazing. We had the red and white checkered tablecloths, and then down the tables were tomatoes and basil and flowers, and it just was it turned out beautiful. And then I did a rehearsal dinner where everything was kind of blues and hydrangeas and lemons, and so we're able to take those, even our indoor spots, and make them very neutral, and then create whatever your vision is.
Mm-hmm.
Love the tent. There's been many a nights where I've actually stood outside in the garden, in our wedding garden, and looked up at the tent and was like, I can't believe I get to work here.
Right.
Because it's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
And even the golf course, like if you look at the pictures of our venue, and that's one of the reasons why I even loved Bonnet Island, was one of my favorite venues in LBI when I was there. You could do a coastal picture because we had the bay there. We have the florals. We have the seagrass. We have the golf course. Like everything that you can think of. And so whatever feel you have, we can take you to we even have this really beautiful bridge out on the golf course with a pond behind it that is just stunning for pictures. And then we have another place on the golf course that has these really beautiful trees that are just like a magical forest kind of look. But the tent is something like nobody else. I'm starting to see them pop up. Makes me a little mad, but Christine and I were just talking about that the other day. We were the first down here. But we actually had a bride who, her brother-in-law lives in the development behind us, in the neighborhood behind us. And she loved the tent so much, but she lived in Washington, D.C. And she wanted the tent, and she tried to recreate it there. And then 2 months before her wedding, she's like, I can't do it. It's all falling through. And they're like, and she's like, do you have any dates available? And we were able to get her in within 2 months, so she could still keep the date. And she was like, this is the best night of my life. And even her groom, I just remember him and his best friend coming out of the seagrass. And apparently they laid down in the seagrass. And he came out and was like, this is the best night of my life.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. But also even, like, we're so close to Ocean City and all the shore towns that you can make it a vacation for your guests.
For sure.
We have a lot of really great relationships with the local restaurants for after parties. We have The Point, we have Josie Kelly's, Pablo's, Crab Trap, and then we also have great relationships with different hotels that are nearby. It just has so much to offer. And so if you are normally vacationing in Ocean City, Avalon, Wildwood, all those places, they're all like, that's probably one of the things that we get the most right now is that we have brides that are coming from Philly and New York, and they vacation in one of the shore towns, and then they want people to experience that.
Yeah.
So they'll come in, they'll do a rehearsal on Thursday or Friday with a big rehearsal dinner somewhere, and then they have the Saturday wedding, and then on Sunday they do a brunch, and then they go to the beach, and they do all the things that you would do when you were in a shore town. And so even one of the things that we offer is at the shore table where we have Johnson's popcorn and Shriver's saltwater taffy.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have a relationship with South Philly pretzels that we do a pretzel table. And
Yeah.
so we really try to tie it in to create an experience for your guests. Even outside of weddings, we have a at the shore banquet or station menu that we actually did for a funeral or celebration of life the other day. Well, a couple months ago. So yeah, it just, we're able to take your vision and create it however you want it to be, whether it's food, the environment, whatever it is. That's one of my favorite parts. But the garden and the tent are probably my favorite spots.
Yeah, I love that. And you're definitely, you're thinking not just from the couple's experience, but the guest experience as well, which is like a really big thing. One of my favorite things about, I don't do a ton of them nowadays, but one of my favorite things about destination weddings is the fact that it's not just, the 4-hour reception. Like it's like a multiple day thing, and you get to just really enjoy, being with your guests, your friends and family for an extended period of time. And you're in like this very vacation oriented location. So I feel like it's, that's such a perfect place for people who are looking for that, for it not to just be, just a one night experience and celebrate. And then you're like, okay, now what do we do?
Exactly.
It's like, plan something for the next day, make a whole, weekend out of it. But yeah, as much as you can, like, just get whatever you can out of like that celebration. I feel like it's so much more than just like a one night thing.
Right. And I think like being a wedding planner on LBI, we really did, like, it was destination wedding planning. Now, if there's a bride out there that wants to take me to Italy or Greece, I would love to do that for you, because that is a dream of mine. But really, I think that's been one of the strong suits of me at Great Bay, is that I have all that experience. Because it really is a different thing. I remember we did a wedding, Bogath Wedding and Events, and we did a wedding for Olympic ice dancers.
Oh, wow.
So they were coming in from Canada, and, like some brides, they have like the welcome sign and they have the centerpieces and they have all this stuff, and then you have to like pack it all back up and then put it somewhere. Well, when you're an Olympic ice dancer, you don't have that luxury. So like just helping them know where to get things, helping them know how, like, okay, this is important to buy because you might want to keep something like that, but then knowing what to like kind of sub out to other people is always important to know. And just finding the things that are vital to create memories for later. And so like the brides who don't want to like do it in their town and don't have that capability, or to do it inside the town that they live in, their home's right there and all their stuff is right there. You just have to have a different way of thinking of all those pieces, because there's so many different things that you bring to your own wedding, whether it be, decor, all the way down to how you're going to bustle your bustle. Like, and if you're somewhere, like if you're at the shore and you're normally from Philly, you can't run home to get whatever it is.
Right.
And so you just, in my mind, we always have to be ready. So no matter what the day is bringing, I had a mom who her dress was too long. And so TikTok has this Stitchy. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
No, I don't.
It's
think
like
so.
a little gun. It's like a pricing gun.
Okay, got it.
And so they have little ones. And so I literally like took her in there and I hemmed up her skirt or her dress for her so that way she could dance the rest of the night.
Yeah.
And so when you are doing weddings on that level, you have to be prepared. I had another couple that the shoe broke as they were about to go down the aisle. We don't have time for shoe glue. So then, like, I have little thumbtacks that I know that will only go so far in and they're flat. So, like, knowing all those types of things is pretty vital when you don't live near your wedding venue.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one of those things that not every couple considers, that there's all these things outside of just, well, all right, we got the photographer, we got the venue, we got, all these things checked off, but all these little like considerations. And it's great if you have, a wedding planner. Like, obviously you did this for so long, so you're bringing a lot of that experience that I feel like, it only comes with doing this for so long and running into like, okay, well, next time we'll make sure we're prepared for this. And at a certain point, you are prepared for pretty much anything.
Right. Yeah. Well, even like recently, we had a bride and groom, and I think it's really awesome because Christina and I both have been wedding planners for years. So we have like you basically get two really great wedding planners if you choose Great Bay. But even before the day of your wedding license, your marriage license, there's rules for every town.
Yeah, there
And
is.
not everybody knows that.
Yeah.
And so like, and I'm not talking like when you can, like who can fill it out, how it can be filled out, who has to return it, what is your timelines. Like a lot of couples don't even realize like if I get married and then I leave on my honeymoon, I really only have a week to get my marriage license back. And it can only be like in our town, it can only be returned by the pastor or the couple.
Mm-hmm.
And so like to have those conversations and help them know those types of things ahead of time. I've even been a witness for couples because I live 4 blocks from town hall.
Yeah.
Like I live 2 minutes from Great Bay. So I'm able to just like pop over there, be the witness, and then they don't have to ask people to take the day off.
Yeah.
You know, like, so there's just little things like that that a lot of couples have no clue.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they're walking through and they're like, oh, this is so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And if you have somebody at your disposal that has the answers, it's not as overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. And if it's one of those things like you mentioned the marriage license. Like if you do it incorrectly, it's like it's a whole mess. It's like it takes you have to like return it or whatever, refill everything out. There's I think there's something that they charge you for for filling it out incorrectly and all these things that you're like why would we even consider this? Like you just think again like you have everything on your list checked off, but to have a crew of people that are really thinking about these things and really considering it is like such a valuable thing. So we're pretty much like most of the way through 2026, but now I feel like fall, correct me if I'm wrong, is like the wedding season. To me, that is like when I think of wedding season, I'm like, that September through November time of year.
I'm even thinking it's picking up more so than spring now.
Yeah, for the past like however many years, it's been spring and fall, but yeah. So now we're really getting into it. Any like trends or things that you feel like you've seen this year that maybe stand out from previous years, and or anything that you feel like is becoming a trend as we're going into like 2027?
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of brides are making it a little bit simpler. They're not doing as much signage. They're not doing like everything's just a little bit pulled back. And I don't know if that's an economy thing or everybody's just over it all because I feel like you go through seasons where everybody's like everything, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mean like decor, food, like everything's it's like we need everything to be everything.
Like over the top and like you're really trying to create like the Pinterest wedding that you see online.
Yeah. And so this season, like I was just going through all my August and September. I was like, wow, that's not as much signage or not as much this and even using like we have a bride who is under the gazebo, she's doing a meadow of flowers. And then she's taking all those flowers and we're going to move them to her sweetheart table. So we're repurposing things, which I love.
So smart.
Yeah. One of my one of my former students just did a wedding at a country club nearby. And she took all of her aisle flowers and then put it around the dance floor. Yeah. And it was stunning. Like
such a cool idea.
And like just this, like the staff had a great time just like moving it from one area to another, and it was like it just made the whole room so completely different. Mm-hmm. And the one fun one that I really love that I see a trend coming through is the cake cutting. So typically you have the bride and groom doing the cake, right? I've seen it several times where they have their parents cut the cake after them. And then the grandparents. So then you get all these pictures of, and it's been funny because I suggested it to one bride, and they loved it. So now they're going to do it. And I told them I just did a 50th anniversary and they didn't get to cut their cake. And so we got to recreate it for them at this 50th anniversary. And so I was like, so go back and see if that was even a thing when your grandparents, you know, like we take for like us, we're like, oh, this is just what you do at a wedding.
Right.
But that might not have been what was happening in the 1940s or 50s, you know? So like to recreate those favorite memories and then add your important people to it is like, it's one of those things that I'm like, top notch.
I love that. I hope that becomes even more of a trend, because I would say over the past maybe 2 years specifically, the bigger trend was I almost hardly saw couples that were doing like announced cake cutting.
Yes, we have a lot of that.
Yeah, where they stop the party and it's like, okay, we're gonna put the spotlight on them for a few moments. We would just kind of keep the party going and just like, you know, just get the shots that we need, and then they jump back in. And I appreciate that for, you know, maybe garter and bouquet toss aren't much of a tradition anymore. I haven't seen that, you know, too frequently over the past however many years. But I love that this is kind of putting a new meaning on something that is like an older tradition, but just making it, you know, just kind of like feel like it still should have some significance.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
I even just saw a TikTok where the couple wrote personal letters to every guest, and then the bride's mother, watercolored the front of the cards.
That's very nice.
And so then when they gave their welcome speech, they were like, underneath your charger, there is a personal letter. And then it shows this video of them all like tearing up, like as they're reading their letters. And I'm like, that is amazing. Like, that means more to your guests than if you have, like, I don't know. I think that's one of the things that I want brides and couples in general to understand, that most people don't care if you have a cup to take home. They would rather you put the money towards an extra bartender so their wait isn't as long.
That's smart. Yeah.
So there's like so many different ways that you can think through their experience on the day that we can add, like even hair and makeup. What if we add an extra like hairdresser or makeup artist rather than making your girls get up at 6 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
So like, and then not do one of the signs or, you know, like one of the things like that.
Yeah.
And so looking for people's experiences outside of what you think the day has to look like. And that's more impactful in my ideas or my view, I guess you would say.
And when you say you're like, that seems so obvious, like that seems like such a, oh yeah, like, you know, prioritizing their experience over, you know, like a dancing robot, which is like really cool.
It is.
But yeah, like maybe there's something else that maybe has even more, you know, meaning, you know, when it comes down to it. And I feel like, I hope that is like the overall trend that's happening.
Yeah.
Is that things are done with a lot more intention and meaning than just like, oh, this is a cool thing that I saw, and so we're gonna do it too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Even when I do rehearsals, one of the things that I always get asked, like, am I walking too fast or am I walking too slow? And so I always tell them, this is the one point of the day where you're going to see everybody all at once, right? And so it's more important to be in the moment than it is to worry about how fast you're walking or how slow you're walking. Most times, you don't trip when you're not paying attention, right? Yeah, like you're just walking because it's a normal thing. And I also have never heard anyone leave a wedding being like, well, that wedding was horrible because they walked too slow or they walked too fast. So like, stop thinking of all those little details that really don't matter. And like, think of them like, okay, this is my experience with these people who I know they all know and love me. And I know they're here to champion for us and stand for us with marriage, rather than being like, okay, how does this look? But like actually be like receiving that love and that support and being in the moment. Yeah,
like really letting that register. Because I do feel like for a bride, I could imagine, you know, you're like, I don't usually wear a giant, you know, wedding gown, and this is definitely something that's like, I don't want to feel like I'm embarrassing myself. But, you know, just as you pointed out, I feel like that's one of those things. These are like all your favorite people in one room. And how often do you ever get to experience that? And so, you know, even for just that moment, if you just kind of like just let that sink in and register, I feel like it puts a lot of things into perspective, and you know, maybe worry less about those smaller details
Yeah.
and like how exactly you're looking, and just be present. That's really like such an important
Yeah.
thing, especially when I'm like going through the day and documenting things. It's like as much time as I can make sure that because no matter what we do, the day goes by so quickly.
Yes.
So if I can do a good job of making sure that they feel like, you know, they really got to enjoy it and the day didn't just like get away from them because we were spending the whole time, you know, getting pulled in different directions and, you know, taking portraits the whole time. That's really like such an important part of their experience, I think.
But I even think it's important for us as professionals. So when I send a bride down the aisle, and I don't think I've ever told anyone this before, I say the same exact thing. And my assistant Kelly, she makes fun of me. She's like, "Oh boy," like there was even like one couple that didn't always get along, and so she's like, "Are you gonna be able to say that?" But when I send a bride down the aisle, I tap them on the shoulder and I say, "Go marry your best friend," and it's just for me to help them be like, "That's what I'm doing."
Yeah.
Like if you don't do that, then we failed. Everything else is gravy,
Yeah.
right? So it's me helping them remember, like, this is what I'm doing. I'm not here to put on a show. I'm going to go marry my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I never realized how impactful it was until I got a review from a bride that said, "I'll never forget what Corie told me as I was
Yeah.
walking down the aisle."
I love that.
And I was like, oh, I didn't even realize it had that impact. And so then I spent some time just thinking it through, and I was like, that is pretty impactful. That is pretty important as a professional, that we should be just pointing them back to why we're doing it.
Yes.
And why we're here.
Yeah, just kind of like being their North Star, and I love that because I have something similar that, you know, I end up just kind of at the end of the night and I'm just like, you know, saying my goodbyes, and I feel like even if it is like, you know, after the last song, and I feel like this is that point where a lot of couples and, you know, just, you know, the guests overall, and they feel like, oh, like that was it. It's like it all went by so fast, and I'm always like, you know, night's not over, keep it going, and because it's like your story doesn't end with the last song, like,
Right.
it keeps going. If you're going to an after party or like, you know, the next day when you wake up and you know you still have like all that feeling and emotion and all that, that's all part of it, and it's just like just keep this going for as long as you can, because that's like just the whole point of all of this is like.
Yeah. Well, even one of the, so I do have the honor of doing a lot of Christian weddings with my students. And that's one of the things that I love about, like, when a pastor does a wedding, they have found ways to tie in, like, the people who are standing here with you, you have a responsibility for them. You know, like, I've even heard a pastor at a rehearsal go, "Okay, guys, we're here." You know, they opened in prayer or whatever. And then he said, "You chose to stand with this couple today and tomorrow, but you are also choosing to stand with them for the rest of their lives and hold them accountable and point them back. Like, when they're having a rough time, point them back to each other. Don't be like, yeah, she's this or he's that, or like fire it up,
Yeah.
but instead, like, find ways to keep putting them back." And so I've been very blessed that I know of. I've only had 3 divorces in my 18 years, you know, and I tell couples that sometimes when I'm like, you guys are getting a little tough with each other. Like,
Yeah.
we can't have that on my mark.
Yeah,
But,
right. Don't
and I
ruin my
try to make it
stats.
fun, but then I'm like, yeah, bring it back, bring it back. And
Mhm.
so I think even the guests who are there and the people who you choose to stand alongside of you, knowing that this was a fun night, but you chose them to walk through this together.
Yeah.
And you can choose to have them included past that day. And so when you're choosing your bridesmaids, your groomsmen, even your officiant, like, pick who you know will help your marriage, because that day is a day, but you're building a marriage.
Yeah, for sure.
And you have to keep that vital and like up front, because otherwise you're spending a lot of money for nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
And in the same way that, you know, the wedding day isn't just, you know, all because of, you know, one person. It's a whole group of people and a whole group effort. it's the same thing for a marriage. Like it really takes, that community that you decided to invite out to celebrate with you. And, maybe you think it's just like, so you guys can party together. And I feel like when I ask my couples, like, what means the most to you when you think about the wedding day? And they're like, I just want everybody to have a good time. But really that is your community, and you might not realize it in that moment, but, every couple like really needs that. That's a really big part of,
Yeah.
of getting through, being married. And,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely like you need your people.
Mm-hmm.
And like whether or not they're family or friends, you just need your people. And there's always going to be people that show up on your wedding day, and then there's people so this is probably a little off topic, but like when someone passes away or has a death in their family, everybody shows up, right? And that's the same thing with a wedding. Like everybody shows up on the wedding day, but it's what happens after that is hard. And so looking for people that will, like one of the traditions that I have is that everybody brings a casserole and you have all this food, and now you have all these people at your house. So what I try to do is I make a bag of toilet paper, paper plates, forks and knives, like all that kind of stuff, because I want them to see, like, even if you're sick or you had a loss, like you don't feel like making dinner, well, you definitely don't want them to do the dishes either.
Mm-hmm.
And so having those type of people at your wedding and knowing those are the people that are going to have your back and be able to point you back to the person that you love and walk you through it is just life-changing. Yeah. And so I just think that, like at Great Bay, I have the honor of doing, like proms. I have celebration of life, and like just watching those families walk those things out and like being able to help them give practical ways to keep it going is for me, it's an honor. It really is an honor.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I didn't know where this conversation was going to go, like before we jumped into it. And I love that is kind of part of just sitting down and having these discussions. Is like, you never know what's going to come out of it. And, but I feel like there's so much like sentiment that we talked about in just this, this episode. And I feel like I am very appreciative that you bring the perspective that you do. I want to make sure, like, before we leave off, is there anything that you feel like is valuable for couples that are planning a wedding right now? Any like tips or anything that you can give them?
I guess I would say that's a good question. I have to think about that one.
Yeah, that's okay. I really like kind of threw you a curveball. Like,
for me, I guess my tips is making sure you're telling your own story. And like I think I said this at the beginning of the podcast, is the two questions that should stay at the forefront of your mind are, how do you want people to feel when they leave? And telling your story. Like, there's so many people that try to tell a whole story, like a TikTok story or a Pinterest story. But telling your story will be so much more important to you than telling any other or having your wedding done any other way. And I love a lot of our vendors, trust me, I love it. And there's so many ways that you can spend money, but really sitting down and thinking through, like, I love my flowers. I want to remember what they look like all the time. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I have a former student, Candace Winkle. Oh, she's not a Winkle anymore. She got married. Mm-hmm. I forget her last name now. Okay. But anyway, she owns Glazed Over Studio in Ocean City. But she'll come in and she'll water paint your wedding, like your ceremony. Or I just saw another vendor where you send her a picture, like 4 different pictures of your flowers, like your bouquet, mm-hmm. and they make a piece of art out of it. So that way you have it forever. Yeah. And so for me, like, I think it's important to know, like, be a part of your day and then look at what you will treasure at the end. And then really invest in those parts. Don't invest just because that's what TikTok or Pinterest tells you, mm-hmm. but invest in what you want to know. Even ask yourself, like, what do I want to tell my kids about this day? What do I like when I'm 80 and, sitting there telling my grandkids, what do I want to tell them about the day?
Yeah.
And then go pursue that.
Yeah.
Don't pursue things just because it's hip or cool or whatever. Pursue it because it has a meaning to you, and make your day your love story and just have that shine. And they're the weddings where everybody leaves and is like, this was the best day.
Yeah. I love that. And I feel like when, for anybody that takes that advice, this is going to help you to worry less about the little things. Because inevitably in a wedding day, there are so many things that could go left or right. And, I think the way I look at it is that all just kind of becomes part of your story. And so if you just kind of like embrace that, and a lot of times even things in the moment where you're like really frustrated, or you're like, this is such a big deal, and you look back on it and you laugh or whatever. But I feel like just kind of keeping that in focus, that, what really this is all about, that is definitely.
And even asking, because it's so funny, because brides have visions that are very strong, right? And then there's things that grooms really care about. And I think, like, one of the other questions that I've asked in the past is, what are 2 things on that day that if they don't happen, you'll be really disappointed? And then that way, your planner, your venue, your photographer, they can make sure those 2 things definitely happen. Because I've had brides where they literally wanted to see the room so they can make sure all the tablecloths were even. And I'm like, once people sit down, they're not even going to see that. Like, why would that even be a thought on your wedding day? And it was for her. And of course we did it. But at the same time, I'm like trying to help her realize, like, people are going to walk in. They're going to throw their purse down. They're going to throw their shoes down. They're not going to care if all the tablecloths were even.
Right.
And so to take that energy and that time away from something that really matters to you really is a loss for you. And so I like when brides, like I have a bride right now that I'm working with, and she's like, we love going to Phillies games and eating hot dogs. Is there a way that we can build that in? So just really, and then also hearing what your groom wants and what will make it memorable for him just as much. Because we do have a lot of, I will say, I think recently grooms are a little more vocal.
That's good.
Right? Yeah. And I'm loving it. But then at the same time, like, the bride has to be accepting of that. And so it should be both, 50-50. And so that way there's key moments that your groom, is your now husband, is now reminiscing and being like, yeah, that was pretty awesome. That was, and giving that. And even if you can give it as a surprise gift, that's even more fun for me, like when we do that. But like tying them in and making sure their voice is heard is really important to me.
Yeah, I love that. And I definitely feel like anybody that's in the search right now for the perfect venue, they are, recently engaged, and any kind of event for that matter. I definitely want to make sure they know where to find you. So just let everybody know all the socials, the website, where they can find you guys.
All right. So we are Greate Country Club. We are located in Somers Point, New Jersey. We are on literally 2 minutes on your way into Ocean City, New Jersey. You can go to our website, greatbay.com. We have our Pinterest, which is Great Bay Celebrations. We also have a Great Bay one, but that since we're also a golf club, you'll see more golf on that side. But Great Bay Celebrations is more about the events and the weddings that we do there. And we're also on TikTok with Great Bay Celebrations. And so, yeah, we're pretty much everywhere.
Awesome. Yeah. And I feel like, after they connect with you, it's so worth it to just like take a tour, because being at the venue is definitely a different experience.
Yes.
And I think it'll come through the level of service that it's really very thoughtful, the way that you guys conduct yourselves over there. So thank you, Great Bay Country Club, for letting Corie come out and talk to me on today. It's been honestly wonderful having you. So thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I can't wait for you to come and do your podcast at Great Bay.
Yeah, we're definitely going to come out for a tour. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But yeah, thanks again. This was awesome.
Thank you.